My name is Richard Emery. I'm 84 years old. I'll be 85 in about 30 days. I'm here to talk about death.
In your opinion, what does it mean to die?
Well, obviously, it means that you don't have a pulse rate. Particularly, I think they judge death more on brainwave patterns. If there's no brainwave there, you're gone. So that's physiologically. I think I guess I would think of it, use the word spiritual. In spiritual terms, the spirit leaves the body, and the person passes over to the other side. That's what it means to die, as far as I'm concerned.
So, in your opinion, what is the other side?
Oh, okay. All of us have to decide if the universe is benevolent or malevolent. Are we welcome here? And whoever or whatever is in charge, is that being loving or not loving or indifferent? And that's a basic. A person's born into this, and a lot of people are born into life and they're not wanted, and they kind of feel that. They learn that they're not wanted. A lot of people are born and they're very wanted. A lot of mixtures in between. What's the question? What's
Oh, what's the other side?
Other side? I guess we all live with those feelings, these expectations, and and we all have to wrestle with that too. And people do wrestle with it, whether they say it or not. They're wrestling with it. I happen to believe that the other side is benevolent, loving, caring. For God so loved the world. And I personally believe in a very personal God. And that God is there waiting for us when we pass over. The best description, okay, the other side has to be just simply an extension of this life. I mean, it can't be anything else. To think that we die, pass over to the other side, we're given a harp to go sit on a cloud somewhere is stupid. Or you're just going to live this blissful life for the rest of eternity. I believe that the next life is going to be very much an extension of this life. And in this life, the whole purpose of it is for us to find out where we belong and who we are. To work out our own special place, what we are supposed to be, as far as the God of the universe. And we become part of God. God becomes part of us. I kind of believe that we all kind of make God up, become like cells in the Borg or something like that. Whatever we have failed to do in this life, as far as making ourselves who we should be, that process is going to continue in the next life. It's going to be different because the rules are different, the perimeters are different, the boundaries are different, the values are somewhat different, but it's a continuation of this life. There's a book you should read. The name of it is Proof of Heaven. And I don't give too much serious thought to most of those books that are written with that idea of near-death experiences. But there's two of them that I have read that I thought really caught on, that really had what I would think heaven is going to be like, the next life is going to be like. I shouldn't prejudice by saying, use the word heaven, but the next life. And I think Eben Anderson nailed it. One of the things he talks about, he was there for, a long period of time. He said, in the center of the universe, there is like a large orb, and that orb broadcasts love across the universe. It's the kind of love you feel. It's not an intellectual thing, it's a love, a God of love. Love holds the universe in place. If love ceased to exist, there would be nothing else to take its place. I mean, the universe is basically energy. God is energy. Okay, Christianity talks about the Trinity. Most Christians have no idea what the Trinity means. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Why is it a Trinity? Classic theologies always understood God as the Father. That's going to be a problem when it bangs out the time. But the Father loves the Son loves the Spirit loves the Father loves the Spirit, the Father loves the Son. In other words, Christianity has God as a Trinity, and the reason is that it's a dynamic circle. It's a relationship circle. It's a movement, dynamic thing that moves constantly. That orb in the center is filled with love and radiates love because God is basically a dynamic of love. And that permeates, and it's interesting that in this life, we had all these people out in California had their houses burned down. Invariably what they say is, it's awful that I lost everything I own, but I still have my family. I still have the ones I love. And we are made in the image of God. And for the most part, we are not very happy unless we have somebody to love and somebody to love us. And that's the image of God. And that's the universe. That's what this life is about. That's what the next life is going to be about. It can't be anything else. I don't buy the whole idea of a fiery hell where God's going to punish people for a lifetime. Some people, we still have freedom of choice. You have self-will. And there will be people who will not want to be in any kind of a universe where there's a supreme being like a God. And I think God will accommodate that. They can go somewhere by themselves. But basically that's what God does here. He gives us freedom. The sun shines the same on the good and the bad. The rain falls the same as on the wealthy and the poor. God creates all, or treats all equal. It's going to be that way in the next life. I believe something else I want to put in here too. It seems, this is just my conjecturing, it seems to me that the line between us and those who have passed, that barrier is growing thinner.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, there is more discussion going back and forth. In other words, when I was growing up, death was a wall. That was it. It was over. But there are too many instances where those who have passed communicate back again. And I like to think of it as part of the evolutionary process of being a human being. And isn't it amazing that whatever animals are, the consciousness, the sensibilities that we have are really amazing when you compare to what a fish has. But that's part of the evolutionary process. And I think that the next movement in our evolution, which will take billions of years, is to become more intuitive, empathic, so that it would be possible to communicate more directly than we are now. I have friends who believe very strongly that they are guided by relatives who have gone on. And I've never quite experienced that myself. I have experienced some startling kind of experience from the other side. Kind of shook my boots, but I think there's more of that happening and will be more. It's part of our evolution.
Can you tell me about that experience?
Okay, it's a hard one. I'll do it. The first child was stillborn. It died 1 week before delivery, or delivery date. And my wife, my ex-wife, noticed at the time that the baby stopped moving. And that she became concerned, went to see the doctor, and they determined that there was no heartbeat, no brain waves, and the child had died. And she carried that baby for another week before it had a cesarean delivery, which I thought that's cruel. But anyway, that's the way it was. And life went on. You know, the baby I was in seminary, I was busy, I was, working part-time, and I made her comfortable, and life went on, never really thought about that. And, raising kids and doing life, doing careers, surviving, moving on, getting a divorce, you forget, And I learned to meditate some 30, 40 years ago. And I would go in this room. We had another house that had a full basement, but downstairs there was one part of the basement that was fully enclosed. It was concrete ceiling, concrete floor, concrete four walls. It was under the garage. It was a storage area. And I had a chair in there that I used to use for meditation. And I was in the habit of going in there and every day to meditate, either for 30 to 40 to 50 minutes, something like that. And I became aware of the fact when I was meditating that there was kind of like another being there. It's, you can kind of sense if somebody's around. And I became conscious of that, and I didn't know what that meant. And it was there consistently. And so I decided to address it. And it was kind of a funny way to address it. In other words, I'm sitting there in the dark meditating, and this being was back here. And I just I didn't move physically, I just turned my attention towards it. And it's surreal, that it's hard to talk about. But this being came to me, and I didn't see anything unusual. I just heard her, and she said, "I wish I had gotten to know you." And then she was gone, and she never came back. And I know it was that stillborn child. And I believe that someday I'll meet her. In fact, according to all the people who tell us about near-death experiences, you go through this kind of a dark area, and then there is the tunnel with the light at the other end. And there's people who go through that experience consistently talk about individuals at the other end who meet them, relatives, friends. And I think she's going to be there to meet me at the other end. I'm looking forward to that.
When was the first time you remember thinking about death?
To think about death. I, with any serious, had a dog that died, buried it when I was a kid. Kid that I went to school with in the 7th, 8th grade died. I didn't go to the funeral. But, I guess I knew people died. But like I say, I never really had death as a personal, close experience until my mother died, 25 years ago. I guess, you understand it kind of academically, I suppose. But then there's another step is to understand it personally. And so academically, I guess I knew people died from way back there. But as far as one day opening my eyes and saying, I'm going to die. 5 or 6 years ago, maybe 10, decided that I should make some provisions. And so my choice is to be cremated. I don't want to be put in a box and buried underground. It just doesn't sound like what I want. I don't care much for being burned up either, but of the choice, I'll go for the fresh air experience. So that's when I really got serious about thinking, I'm going to die. There's an interesting part of that, too. I have a quote from Woody Allen. He was doing a monologue kind of thing about dying. And he was saying, everybody's got to die. All of us have to accept it. And then he said, I think he summarized it well. He says, I don't mind thinking that I'm going to die and knowing that I'm going to die. I just don't want to be there when it happens. But doesn't that say it well, though? We're going to die. I'd rather not be too conscious about the process. None of us want to have a long, extended illness where we gradually become worse and worse. No one wants to go through 2 years of dying. But there are people who do that. And my grandfather was in his upper 80s, and he had some health problems, none of them real serious. He had a cold, flu symptoms, and he went to bed one night and didn't wake up the next morning. He was gone. Now that's the way to die. That's the way to die, and I hope that's a family trait. Along with the question of the perfect death would be like, when do you want to die?
Oh yeah, when do you want to die? That's a great question.
It's one thing to, anticipate you're going to die, but then it's another thing to, what's the word? Look forward to it. And I think that it's healthy to come to a point where you're looking forward to death. It's kind of a way of saying, I have done some due process work on myself. I'm happy with who I am and where I am and what I'm doing, what I value. Ready, to kind of put the bow on it and move on. And
Expensive.
I think some
Um,
people get to that place, I suppose, and some people don't.
Sometime
when
you have to decide.
you have to decide,
Am I happy living
am I
here
happy living here
with a sore
with
shoulder,
a sore shoulder, sore knee, sinus infection that bothers
my hair
me,
is falling
my
out,
hair is falling out,
I'm getting
I'm getting,
when you get older,
when you get older,
you get hit with the ugly
you
stick.
get hit with the ugly stick.
You're not as good
You know,
looking
you're
as
not
you
as
used
good
to
looking
be.
as you used to be.
And
And
there's my high jump is not near as good as it used to be.
And in fact, I don't even want to jump because it hurts when you come back down.
I don't
want to live much longer.
I don't really want to live.
I don't really want to live.
I
I have 90 years old
perhaps
perhaps in my mind, but that's
older
that's
than I used to.
older than I used to want to live.
Oh, what did you used to want? What did you used
More
to
like
want?
about 85.
More like about 85, but I'm not quite ready to go yet.
What is it like for you when you think about the fact that you're going to be dead?
Yeah, what bothers me is that my family's going to go have a party and I won't be there. Yeah, that's a crock. That's what bothers me about it. But that's a kind of a feeling piece about it, that they'll go on. And it is amazing. Well, somebody said what death is like is you put your hand in a bucket of water and then you pull your hand out, and that's what death is like. It's just everything folds back in. It's like you weren't even there. You're gone. They divide up your property or sell it off or throw it away. And, and then 2 generations later, they don't even know who you were. And the legacy, is an issue. I wrote a book, and I think everybody should write a book like this, is that I know the names of my great-grandparents. I never met them, and basically what I know is their name and where they lived, and in some cases what they did for a living, farmers for the most part. But I don't know anything about, like how did they feel about God? How did they treat their spouse? How did they raise their children? What did they believe and what did they not believe? And that's where life is, not just a name with a day in a state that they lived in. And so I decided that I would write a book that would tell my grandchildren who I am. Now, maybe they don't want to know. And so far, I only know of one grandchild who read the book. We have 16 grandchildren. But I did my part. If they want to know, it's there. Yeah. And I think there is a point in time where most of us would like to know a little bit about where we came from. And the title of my book was Father Hunger, because my father deserted the family when I was about 12 years old, 13 years old, someplace in there. And so I grew up without a father. And it's been, in terms of dealing with who you are, where you are, what you're supposed to be, that was my spiritual journey, to grow up and deal with father hunger. And that's the kind of thing that I had to a wound to heal, and to find a way that it would be used for good. That was I think my assignment in life to do before I die, which I think for the most part I've done it. Now, whether that kind of thing I'm going to be doing in the next life again, too, I don't know. But I think we all should think in terms of what kind of legacy do we leave for the next generation and then the generation after that. My father, obviously, I did not think much of him as a person, but he did write a little book. And both of our books are about the same size. It's kind of interesting. It's only 130 pages, something like that. He talked about places that he went and things that he did. Mine is more introspective and theological, very theological too. I had to deal with father hunger from a theological understanding of it. So that's the legacy I wanted to leave.